Hello and good evening, everybody. Mike, Nunania Tanea Winder. My name's Tanea. I'm a citizen of the Duckwater Shoshone Nation. I'm also a Pyramid Lake Paiute and Southern Ute, and that's the nation that I grew up on. We're so excited to be here with you all today for our Native Lens event, Strength Through Storytelling. You're in for a big treat. We're going to be showing some film clips today. We're going to have some awesome commentary. I'm going to let my co-hosts introduce themselves, and then we'll have time for a Q&A. So write your questions throughout, save your questions for the end, whatever feels comfortable to you, but just kick back, relax, and enjoy this time with us. I'm really excited about the Native Lens project. I am involved as one of the cultural consultants. It's been just an amazing opportunity learning from my fellow colleagues, learning about film, learning more about these opportunities for Indigenous people to share their stories and voices, because each of you has a voice in a story and that story matters. And I hope you get some of that affirmation by watching some of the films we're going to show today. For now, I'm going to hand it over to one of my co-hosts, Enrique.
Hello, I'm Enrique Jimenez. I'm with RMPBS. I am in a technical capacity supporting the project, which is a collaboration between KSUT Tribal Radio and RMPBS here in Denver and serving Colorado as a whole. And I want to introduce Shireen Gonzalez, who is the the main editor for the project, and she handles all of the video functions.
Well, hello everybody. Navetewa Konwe Kunyopovieta Powogiowengiota. My name is Shireen Gonzalez, and I'm from San Ildefonso Pueblo, and I'm the lead editor for Native Lens. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm really excited for you all to see some of our videos from our amazing filmmakers. And I'll also be moderating the chat in YouTube and just passing along any questions you may have along the way. So yeah, thank you all again. Oh, and also I'm going to pass off to Ernest.
Thank you, Shireen. Great to be with you all. Mike Duguvan the Goyak. My name is Ernest House Jr., first and foremost, a member of the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe from Toyoak, Colorado. And it's great to be with you all. I'm also served, like my co-host, as a Native consultant with Native Lens. This is such a great opportunity. And before we jump in, I just want to make sure and give a shout out and a big thank you to Rocky Mountain PBS, KSUT Radio, and all the Indigenous voices out there, young, old, that submitted something to put this all together. We just really thank you for your voice. And so without further delay, let's go ahead and get started watching first the promo clip of Native Lens Project.
My name is Ernest House Jr., and I want to tell you about an exciting new series called Native Lens. It's an opportunity to share your story. No filmmaking experience necessary.
Collectively, Native visibility in the media hasn't been widely controlled by the people that it actually actively affects.
I believe Native stories are so important, especially these days in this time and era that we are living in.
It is important for Indigenous folks to tell their own stories. That way young brown children can see someone that looks like them on the TV.
And it could be about anything. Culture, tradition, language. Your story, you're in charge.
Well, as Native people with Indigenous ancestry, it's our collective responsibility to keep stories alive.
We can ultimately come together and build stronger communities.
All you need is a story to tell and a phone to tell with it.
Grab your phone, record whatever story you want to tell, and send your story to Native Lens so that you can tell your story from your perspective.
It's important to keep our Native stories going.
We have that responsibility more than ever to carry on those stories.
Especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, I imagine some new stories are going to be involved.
So we can let our laughter and our suffering speak. This is why I tell stories.
Please check out nativelens.org for more information, and I look forward to seeing your story.
I love seeing that promo. It always makes me just feel so empowered, so grateful, so thankful for, like Ernest said, for people who are brave enough to share their voices and their stories, because it's so important. And now that you've gotten to see a little bit more about what Native Lens is about, we're going to watch some videos and you can see how some of your fellow filmmakers interpreted this project. So with that, we're in COVID, we're doing this event online, virtual. We're all getting used to this virtual world, having been here a year now. And the pandemic has really affected many of us in different ways, particularly in Indian country. So in this first video, we're going to get some insight into what life has been like during the pandemic for one family on the Navajo Nation.
Yeah, everybody. I'm Tiara Collins. I did a Native Lens submission about a few months ago. The reason why I wanted to make a video about it was because it was my experience of what was happening during the pandemic and just the things that I found important to me, things I wanted to learn more about. And it really helped me a lot. Not only was it a video, but it was a way of life for almost an entire year. And I'm very grateful because it taught me a lot of things that I'm going to need to know for when I'm older and for things that I want to pass down through the generations. But advice for anybody looking to do a Native Lens submission, it would be just to find something you're really interested in, something you're almost doing every day, because once you're doing it every day, it'll be a lot easier to document it and to see what kind of angle you want to go with it. So with anything that you have passion in, you can always, put that out for other people. Maybe they can learn something from it. And in that way, whatever you're learning and whatever you're recording, you're passing it on. And I think for Native peoples, that's one of our very oldest traditions, but it's making its way back around. And it's pretty neat to see what kind of videos and what everybody's up to these days.
Yad Shea Tiara Collins Yanishia. Torich eatni nishla kia ani bashish chin. Kintla chitni dashiche do nasht eja tabahan dashanele. Shema kabitro de naga do shija beshage de. I was raised in Luchi, Arizona, which is near Page, Arizona. My dad told me a story about my great-grandmother who got sick with pneumonia. When she got sick, her children put her in a resting home for the time of, but when she got better and returned home weeks later, her children had sold her sheep. With no more chores at her ranch, she went back to the resting home and passed on days later after being there. Her heart broke so much that her sheep were sold that it's what took her life. We could probably never learn this way of life anywhere else. And to learn from our grandparents who learned from their elders is a true blessing. Could this have happened if we weren't forced into a global shutdown? I really don't know.
I had a job, and this pandemic did cut it short, but I was able to come back out to my grandparents' land where I've been the past couple of months, just doing the basic necessities to survive, which have really connected me back to my roots. So in all reality, it's kind of helped me personally find out what I really enjoy doing in life. And that's just the basics, like the ancestors, trying to survive and live, take it day by day.
So I really love just how that video makes us just think, about the importance of gratitude, about, I've heard a lot of my older relatives and elders share, that this pandemic is really a time for that inward reflection. We're supposed to take that time to reflect and to heal ourselves and really just think about, more about our vision, our purpose, what we're doing. And, that video, I think, just highlights so much of that, the connection to family, remembering what is sacred, And that's one of the things I really love about this Native Lens project as well. Like our mission is inviting Native and Indigenous stories to be seen and heard. The vision behind it was just imagining, our homelands, the Four Corners area, as a vibrant media landscape, prominently featuring Indigenous narratives and creating that regional multimedia consortium of media organizations with the capacity to produce content on the Four Corners for a regional and national audience. And I think all of these films, the one you just saw and the others you're going to see, I think really show just how necessary our voices and our perspectives are to ensure that this Mother Earth continues. Enrique, what do you have to say about the video?
I really enjoyed just the getting back to some of the origins of not forgetting where we come from, in terms of just feeling that in that video is really what I took really away from that story. It's just reconnecting. Sometimes that's so important, and being able to do that and being able to tell that story and have a platform to do that. It's what the project is all about, and that's really where I think getting the stories directly from anywhere in America is going to be important.
All right, so this next video we're going to queue up for you all has to do again with how we're seen, not how just we see ourselves in our world, but how others see us. And some of you may have been familiar with the much debate has occurred throughout 2020 surrounding the cartoonish statue known as the Chief in downtown Durango. And in this next video, Trini Collins is going to offer us some insight into this issue.
Hi, y'all. My name is Trini Collins. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a member of the Southern Ute Indian tribe on the Southern Ute Indian Reservation located near Ignacio, Colorado. I made this episode of Native Lens because I feel like this is an important issue. The Chief episode that I made is a health issue, a health and safety issue. And I feel like no matter how many times people say, well, it's history, it needs to, it needs to be there, I feel like it is damaging in some way, especially to youth or people who do not agree or want to see it every day in their everyday lives. And so Native Lens is a really great opportunity for y'all, for anybody to get out there and do it. And it's super, super easy. And there's a great team behind this that'll help you at every step, which I really appreciated. So please take the time, look it up and submit, because I think it's a really great project to work with. Yeah, as far as adding anything else, I feel like, I appreciate everybody who's involved in this and who makes this work come to fruition. It's a great opportunity for me to move forward and to get my voice out there and heard as an Indigenous woman. So Tueak, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it.
You are not a mascot. No justice!
My name is Daisy Bluestar, and I'm a Southern Ute tribal member from Ignacio, Colorado. I am here to speak on the Chief in front of the Toatin Art Gallery in Durango, Colorado. I am speaking as an Indigenous woman. I am not here to speak for the Southern Ute tribe or speak on behalf of the Southern Ute tribe. Although I am a Southern Ute tribal member, I will speak on behalf of myself, and my opinions are those of mine and mine only. I do come from the Cloud family, which is a Southern Ute tribal family. Through the history and through the timelines, and my family is a traditional family. of chiefs and people who do and have been a part of our culture and a part of our traumas and a part of like the hardships that we've gone through.
My mom is from Little Water, New Mexico, and my dad is from Fort Defiance, Arizona. My is buried in Fort Defiance, Arizona. That's where my roots are. That's where my homelands are. Yes, all of this is native land. All of this is native land.
Durango, Colorado is a place where the Southern Utes' homeland was before we had to face the reality that that was no longer our home. That was taken from us and all surrounding areas. I come from a tribe that has two sister tribes, the Southern Utes, Northern Utes, and Ute Mountain Utes. But we're all still Utes, we're all still Nuchu, we're all still family.
No justice on stolen land! No justice on stolen land!
When we were, as Indigenous people, allowed to be citizens and vote, from that time frame, from when we were allowed to start being a part of our own land, which was already a part of our home, which was already a part of who we were, who our grandparents were, our ancestors were, that already belonged to us. That's what we know. To 1960, that's a small time frame, extremely small time frame. They drug our chiefs by the neck until they couldn't drag them no more. And then they decided, okay, well, let's cut their head off so that we can prove that this Indian is dead, that we can prove that we got their chief. They couldn't cut a finger off. They couldn't cut a piece of the ear off. They couldn't cut that because they couldn't prove that they killed the right Indian unless they cut their head off or unless they drug their bodies across the land to prove that, hey, we killed this Indian. We killed this chief so that we could take over, so we can manipulate their people. But do you recognize the hurt and the pain of having to be stripped of being a Native American who only knew how to live off the land, who only knew how to wear their regalia, who only knew that this was their lifestyle, to 1960, where this chief is wearing cowboy boots and a vest and maracatu clothing. You have to understand the pain that came with that transition from this point to this point. And I understand that the logos, I understand the chief in front of that gallery is a resemblance of everything that's painful, everything that was taken from us. And then you want to put it right in the center of our old homelands. That was the heart of the Ute people. And you want to put that right there in front of us to remind us all the time. And to me, that's not fair. That's not okay. But with that being said, those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions, mine only. And I am a Southern Ute tribal member who comes from a background of a very long line of chiefs. And I hope that this message gets to you in good standing. I hope that things get taken care of, and hopefully it's done with integrity, with morals, with understanding, with education, and with sympathy to what our ancestors had to go through. So to wish the Goyak, all my relations, Daisy Blue Star.
That's where my homelands are. Yes, all of this is native land. All of this is native land.
Wow, such a powerful piece. And again, want to thank Trini Collins and Daisy Blue Star for putting that together. I think this is another example of why the Native Lens Project is so important, because it elevates the Indigenous voice. And I think so often we don't have very many opportunities to, or outlets to be able to showcase our thoughts, our perspectives. And that's what it comes down to, right? It's the perspective of an Indigenous perspective. I thought oftentimes, especially about whatever issue we're talking about, the general public, the non-Native community, doesn't have as much access to Indigenous perspective as those of us that grew up on the reservation or in rural reservation communities. And like this situation here with the reservation border town, I know this issue very well. I wrote an op-ed myself personally in the Durango Herald last year about this imagery and how it ties into not being the image that we would have as seeing our Indigenous students at Fort Lewis College today. But I wanted to make sure, that Trini and Daisy's, this speaks for itself. That's no matter where you stand on the issue, I think it's so important for us to take a step back and to be able to hear and take in those thoughts of other people, just like we heard in the previous clip of the connection back to the roots, the connection back to history. Just an example of Utes alone, we've been in what we call Colorado for 10 to 12,000 years. And there's so much there. There's so much history there. There's so much information that I think that we would like to share there. And I think especially when we talk about Native American imagery and the impacts to the younger generation around the public's perception of what an American Indian or Indigenous person looks like today. Should I have long braids? Should I always wear Native jewelry or necklace? Should I have Ute Mountain pottery in my background? Is that what makes me Indigenous? I think that's exactly the type of question that is challenged by our young people today, and they're fighting up against. And so, just with that, I want to say thank you again, Taloyak, to Trini and to Daisy for putting this powerful video together. With that, I want to transition to the next video. We get to hear the experiences of college student Cheyenne Williams interviewing their grandmother about growing up Muskogee on the Navajo Nation. I look forward to hearing what she gets to learn and what she has to say. With that, take it away.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne Williams. My pronouns are they, them. And I decided to make this Native Lens story because I really wanted to get a lay of the land of what it was like for my grandma to grow up and how different it was compared to how it was for me to grow up in the city. And I just wanted to learn more about my family and kind of what she went through as a kid. So I'm a journalism student at Fort Lewis, and funny enough, I didn't want to be a journalist when I started, but getting more into the program and even being able to do this project made me want to get into journalism and tell the stories of others and help amplify voices that don't necessarily have the access to have their voice heard. Some advice that I would give to people who want to submit to Native Lens is just to be genuine, tell a story that you're passionate about, and just let it shine through, like how passionate you are about it, and do something that you think just needs to be told. Hi, my name is Cheyenne Williams. I'm a student at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado. I'm here to tell the story of my grandmother, an independent, strong woman that I have always looked up to and admired. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I was not able to interview her in person, so we met on Zoom instead. And I really wanted to know where her values came from and what values she was brought up with, especially growing up on the Navajo reservation. I wanted to learn what Muskogee values she was taught and the values that she tried to pass on to my dad and his two brothers. I thought I knew what she would say. It's good to see you.
It's good seeing you, baby.
All right, are you ready?
I suppose.
Okay. Can you give me your name and what tribe you belong to?
Name Ollie Joyce Muskogee, and I'm from the Muskogee Creek Nation. I'm full blood. I'm the daughter of Jake and Minnie Muskogee, sister to Pauline.
And how old are you?
Old enough. I'm 82.
And what age were you whenever you lived on the Navajo reservation?
I was raised out there, so most of my life.
What was it like growing up there?
I guess we had a lot of fun. Wasn't any different than any place else for any kids, you know. City kids, that's all they knew. Reservation kids, that's all we knew.
Did growing up there without electricity like shape your values at all?
Not really. You know, we didn't know any different.
Mm.
And we didn't have electricity until I was a senior in high school. You know, never thought anything about it.
Was it any different being Muskogee living on the Navajo reservation? Were you treated any differently?
You know, we actually weren't. They kind of included us, you know, like their kids. But we got to go to some of the squaw dances. We had a lot of fun out there.
Were there any like certain values on the Navajo reservation?
A lot of different values. You know, Mom and Dad were Southern Baptist. We went to church Sundays in the morning, night, and then on Wednesday evenings. And we learned the Bible. Kind of bad at times, but that was all right. Ask forgiveness.
Were there like any Muskogee values that they had that they tried to pass on to you guys?
No, because during their time in school, they went to boarding schools. And back then in boarding schools, they were told, you know, you have to be white. Well, not have to be white, but you have to be like us, you know. And you can't talk your language. And they were beaten if they were caught talking Creek. So, you know, we never learned Creek. A lot of tribes were like that, you know, all over. As you hear about all these people, they took our kids from them and put them in boarding schools. Well, my own mother didn't go to school until she was 12. And she used to take care of her grandma, and then her grandma said that her grandfather was going to marry her off to some Choctaw man, and she says, okay, I'm going to school. She went on to school and got her education, then became a teacher.
What values did your mom have?
The Baptist values, you know, being a good person. And she was, to me, she was a saint. I don't think anybody can live up to her.
What values have you like tried to pass on, especially with like my dad and his brothers?
You know, for them, since they're all boys, they have to be kind to people. You know, their families. You take care of your families first.
What's one thing that you hope that like me and your other grandchildren will carry on from you?
Sense of humor. Can't get along in this world without a sense of humor, I don't think. You use it when you really need it. And never stop learning. Mom and Dad used to say, you know, they might come in and they might take everything away from you, but they can never take your knowledge. So you learn all you can. We've lived, you know, our ancestors have gone through a lot to get where we are now. And that's what I used to tell, you know, my kids. I says, our ancestors did not walk the trail of tears for us to, you know, burn out. They did it for us. So the least we can do is, you know, honor them by being that good person.
My grandma's answers surprised me, to say the least. I hadn't realized how recently our culture had been taken from us. I hadn't realized how prominent Southern Baptist values were in our family. It was a very bittersweet experience for me, because on one hand, I got to talk to my grandma and learn more about her and our family. But on the other hand, I came to learn how forced assimilation affected our family. This conversation went so differently than I expected. I didn't realize that my grandma didn't even have the chance to learn our language or embrace those traditions. It's a big responsibility to keep my culture and values alive, but I don't just do it for me.
I do it for my tribe and for my grandma. She never had the opportunities that I do, so the least I could do is take them for her.
Wow, that one was so powerful, and I welcome my co-host to add any reflections they want to share as well. But I loved that Shay's advice was when about telling a story, like be genuine, tell a story you're passionate about. I think that's really amazing advice for any of you who are watching and getting inspired and thinking like, yeah, I want to submit something. Seeing Shay interview their grandmother was just, wow, it really touched me. I recently lost my grandmother, and just seeing how important that is, to ask those questions, like to learn more about where you came from. I loved all those questions about, where did we get these values, and that, their grandmother said, the sense of humor. I think we all know natives always joke about, like, we always can make everything a joke, and we have to, like, like their grandmother was saying, like we have to, like, things keep happening, life happens, they try to take things from us, but it's having that good heart, it's having that good mindset, that positive mindset. And I was really moved by they can never take your knowledge. And I love just the different types of learning that were showcased in this video, from hearing about religion to the boarding school experience, and just to see Shay learning from their grandmother.
Yeah, for me, it's really compelling, and it's so awesome to see that despite all of the erasure, all of the colonization, that the resilience is still there. People are still trying to connect to their ancestry, to their communities, and to tell their story. And that's, for me, just it's inspiring, and it's also just it reaffirms my belief in people's resilience, in our people's resilience. And so
I totally agree. I just want to jump in real quick and also offer that too. And Tanea, like you and like so many of us during this last year who lost an elder or a loved one, I also too lost my grandfather not too long ago. And thinking about, wow, what an opportunity that Shay has now with this connection with her grandmother, being able to share that experience. And just like she said, not completely different than she originally thought. I think that's exactly what we see a lot of times with these Native Lens projects is, you go in with one mindset, but at the very end, you probably come out with something completely different, and probably has impacted you down to your core that you never thought was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You have to see where the process takes you and trust that. And so in thinking about that, Native Lens has really provided this outlet for all of us, students, people, to share what they're going through during these times. And I love this next one because it also showcases an artist. And as an Indigenous artist and performer myself, things have been so impacted by COVID, like losing gigs and trying to get online performances, and just wondering, how are other artists weathering the storm? So one artist, Eric Sanchez, a Shoalwater Bay Indian from the mouth of the Columbian River in Tokeland, Washington, is going to share his film that talks about his life during coronavirus.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Sanchez. I go by he, him. I am from the Shoalwater Bay Indian tribe on the Willapa Bay. I made my episode to give awareness of my little piece of heaven on earth, what's going on my reservation during the time of COVID. And I highly recommend, all Native take this opportunity to share their story to the world of this time that we're living in. All right, so stay tuned for my Native Lens episode. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching.
All right, birds, go outside. Come on, go out. Get out of here. Keep going. Go.
We get these beautiful sunrises that I try my best to wake up and experience and make a prayer for the day of how grateful I am for another breath and more sunlight. But most of the time, I'm just sleeping in. Not much has changed on the Shoalwater Bay Reservation. The trees are still swaying with the wind, whispering to one another. The ocean is still flowing in and out of the bay. The clouds are still floating off, too far beyond my imagination. Hey everybody, my name's Eric Sanchez. I am Shoalwater Bay Indian from the mouth of the Columbia River. I am on the Shoalwater Bay Indian Reservation in Tokeland, Washington, and I am showing you my life during the COVID times. It's basically the same. I'm just making a lot of art and have to wear a mask when I go to the store. I asked one of my elders about what differences he's seen since the start of this pandemic. And the only difference is he has to wear a mask and gloves to the gas station now. Shoalwater Bay has always been a sleepy coastal res as long as I've been alive. We are still at 0 cases. Several think it's because of the high coastal winds blowing the virus away from us. Pandemic or not, it's a rare sight to see many people out and about, possibly because the majority of tribal members living on res are elders. Which makes it great for me when it comes to using my reservation as a backdrop to my photography practice. There's 2 things Shoalwaters are known for: clam digging and our artistry. Yet only one is protected under treaty. Being a storyteller, I have learned that I get my inspiration from being on this land. And I believe the power of creativity comes into us artists by never being relocated and working on the land our ancestors have lived on since time immemorial. I am this land, these trees, this sea.
Every time I watch this clip, I feel like this calming sensation, and I can almost smell the ocean. Eric did such a great job of just like capturing that mood, or I don't know what it is, but it's so calming, and it feels like, um, I could just meditate for hours, or I don't know what outside of just. I was curious to ask Eric. Maybe we can ask him in the Q&A if he wrote the music too, or if he also does other artistry. That'd be an awesome thing to learn. But thank you, Eric. That's such an inspiring film.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like, oh, can he narrate my audiobook? Like his voice was just so soothing. Like I felt calm, like, oh, we're in a pandemic, but life's the same. The wind still blows, the ocean still flows.
Right.
And he posted he's part cedar tree. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I also really like to for people who are like, I have so much to share, like how can I get it in such a short video? Like I think this video, it's one of the shorter ones, and it's such a good example about how just you can use that form to really challenge yourself to see what comes out. Like there's just so much packed in there, about life going on, about the 0 cases and people believing the winds like affected that. And one thing I caught this time that I didn't catch the other times I'd seen it was when he said, like it's easy to create here because I'm in my homelands. And I thought, wow, like I do my best writing when I'm back home, or when I like in Boulder or like in Nevada. Like it's really interesting. Like I do feel like those ancestral memories live in those places. But yeah, he got across all that in just a a 3-minute video. So it
Yeah.
was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so powerful. The power of place. Exactly.
So this next one we're going to watch, and again, thank you for that, Eric. This is one of my personal favorites. It's Andrita's. Her video shows us her garden and her ducks. I love the ducks, and her hosting drive-through feast days is some of the many ways Andrita honors her family and Pueblo through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi, my name is Anjita Gonzalez. I'm from San Alfonso, Pueblo, and I made a native lens video. And because of that, and the reason I made that video is because I want to talk about what it was been like on my Pueblo for the pandemic, what has happened. My advice for making a native lens video is be yourself. Talk about what you want to talk about, maybe like your Pueblo, your life, anything like that. You can talk about anything you want. Talking about your tribe, where you're from, everything like that. That's what I would do for native lens. I would like to add, I want people to be safe and everything for our life and make sure they're okay and everything. Thank you and enjoy the native lens episode. Hi, my name is Andrita Gonzalez. I'm from San Alfonso, Pueblo. I am 11 years old. I want to tell you a story about what coronavirus has changed for us and about Native people. I decided to make my own garden, and here we are, my garden, during COVID-19. I grew some squash, yellow squash, carrots, and melon, but the melons didn't grow yet. And here are my ducks. The gray one, the kind of like a brownish kind of duck is my dad's, and the white one is mine. I used some of those eggs to use for my garden, but we used them for our plants, which I've been using for my garden. Makes them grow. Right there, that's Black Mesa. San Alfonso is like a family to us. Everyone, including everyone in San Alfonso Pueblo, is like we're all like a big family together. Today was Santa Cruz Feast Day. It's over there, and we couldn't even dance. That's the one thing about feasts. We have like a lot of dances. I wanted to dance personally, but we couldn't because of COVID-19. We had to do feasts at our own homes. Like, our family's big, so what we did was, at my house, we made a lot of food for people, our families, our loved ones in San Alfonso. So we made a sign saying that Santa Cruz Feasts today. You can drive up and pick your food up, and that's what we did. In the beginning, it was like around March. They sent a note. I was in Phoenix, so we didn't know what was going on. We came back, first week of school. The next week, we couldn't even go back to school. We got a note saying that we had to do virtual classes and they'll send homework home. We were excited, but then, now, we're not excited at all. We hate it. It's hard for us to not go to school, but I'm saying I want to go back to school cause virtual reality sucks. It actually sucks. Everyone wear a mask, please. We want this coronavirus to end right now. We really want it to end right now. So please, everyone wear your mask, be safe, stay home, and everyone be safe.
Wow, how awesome was that? I think Andrea did such a great job, and I wrote down some of the things this time that that were so. It was almost like I was right there. I can imagine the feast days, which if you have not been a part of it, you definitely have to go check that out. That is awesome. But she did such a great job, and she gave some great points of not only if you're interested in doing a Native Lens video, be yourself, talk about where you're from, talk about your tribe, be yourself. And then she ended it all with also giving us some guidance on how we should go through this pandemic. Wear your mask, socially distance, all that stuff. That was awesome. And then she also, of course, was so real and yeah, virtual classes suck. came across loud and clear. That was so great. I loved it. Any of you have any additional thoughts?
I like the overall positivity in her outlook in the video. It's just it's contagious, and it's a simpler place to be sometimes when you're like, for instance, she talks about being in her pueblo. It's sometimes just because of the place that, how you said earlier, Ernest, there's something about a place, and that definitely came through in that video. And it goes to show that this is for everybody. I mean, if you're in school, or you're in wherever you are, you can tell your story in through Native Lens.
Yeah, I always really liked watching this one. Just I've spent a little over a decade of my life working with Indigenous youth, and just young people are our medicine. Like, once you come through that other side and you're born, like, the younger you are, the closer you are to the spirit world. And I feel like they just have such amazing insights. Whenever I'm working with my kids, my favorite part of it is just hearing them laugh, like seeing them have fun. Like, I love the little swing at the beginning and hearing the laughter and just all those little lessons, like, this is my duck, and the eggs, like, it helps the garden grow, just that everything is connected. And I think we can all empathize with each other and with the young ones. And even our youth, our young adults, like in college, just having to do that virtual learning. At first everyone's like, yeah, no school. I know for me, I was like, yes, work from home. And now it's like, no, I want to go back to an office. But yeah, it's just really just shows that creativity and resilience. I think of our people, innovation, like, well, I'll do a drive-through one then. And that was really beautiful to see. But now that we've come to the end of the ones that we're showing, like, do you guys have any final thoughts or reflections just overall on some of what you've seen, or why even more so now you're like, yes, like, we need this project, we need Native Lens?
Well, I think it just provides the voice and the platform for anybody to participate, no matter where they're at. So I think that for me, the stories that we're seeing are coming from all types of individuals, and we're really, and there's more on the nativelens.org site. So if you like this, go check the rest of the stories out and submit your own, because we want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was thinking about too. I was thinking of all these different videos of the effects and impacts of the pandemic, the public's perception of American Indian Alaska Natives today, historical impacts to tradition and language, power of place, like all these things that obviously engulf our lives. And how are we as Indigenous people, what is this time frame going to look like? How are we going to mark it? And I think that one of those things that we see is also too how our tribal nations have adjusted, how they pivoted, how to protect our people, to protect our culture, our language, our traditions. The rollout of the vaccines now. I mean, so many different. My tribe at Ute Mountain had a series of checkpoints throughout the duration to keep the community safe. Curfews. I mean, there was a lot of impact there, a lot of unknowns, and it's just really powerful to see these tribes come together and all of our Indigenous communities to protect what is so important. And hopefully this will stir up some additional thoughts or ideas around future Native filmmakers to be able to tell this moment in time.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, just about uplifting each other and sharing that connection and protecting what's important, like protecting our people and our places. And just from like the back end of Native Lens, for any of you out there who are thinking of submitting, it's been an honor like being a part of this process, because just seeing how much integrity everybody has throughout the whole process. Like we have weekly meetings, we talk through things, and I really just learn a lot from everybody, particularly my Indigenous colleagues. Every time Sheila speaks, I'm always like learning, and I'm like, wow, I gotta take on some of that ferocity, some of like her strength. Like I really admire that about her. And then Shireen, she's the editor. She like looks through all of these, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever given interviews sometimes, but people will change your words and you're like, what? I didn't say that. It's gonna make me look bad. And for those of us who like are close to home, there's major community accountability. So you're like, what? That can't be out there. And so having like an Indigenous editor and producer is just like, it just gives me like that much more trust, just seeing like the care and the time that Shireen puts into like making sure that she is taking your submissions and creating something that you're proud of, something that you want to share, because it's supposed to bring that community love, I would say, like in sharing your voice and like being confident that the story you're putting out there is yours and not something somebody changed to fit some kind of narrative. And I really loved that about the process.
All right, and now we can transition to our Q&A section. Folks, if you have any questions, it looks like we have one from Wes. He wants to know if there were any cases on Eric's reservation. I know he noticed, or he mentioned in the piece that there hadn't been, but Eric, if you're in the audience, it'd be great if you let us know what the status is. Any other questions? Let's see here. And somebody asked what inspired Native Lens. It's really a collaboration between two organizations that have had the ability and the opportunity to put this together, to be able to get all of these stories in a new and different way, or to capture them in a new and different way. I think it's really unique that the way that we're looking for the stories is just from the community. And I think Ernest and Tanea, if you can weigh in on how you felt the process and the journey has been so far. I know you touched on it, Tanea, but the variety of the stories that we get, and even though we call them films, they're stories from people. I think that they're super important, and they give us a insight into what's going on during this time. Still 0 cases at Shoalwater Bay.
I just read that. Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that, Eric.
Alexandra Salazar is asking if we accept poetry submissions. I'll let you take this one, Tanea.
We actually do, I believe, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun, people, but we're going to have a poetry corner. One of the things that came out in the pandemic that we didn't really get to celebrate as much, Joy Harjo, who's the first U.S. Indigenous Poet Laureate, and now one of the few, if not the only Poet Laureate to serve a 3rd term, but she just came out with an Indigenous Norton anthology. So for any of you who write, like Norton is like this high tier like anthologies, and so it's there's usually maybe 1 or 2 Native poets in some of those, but Joy actually got them to create an entirely Indigenous Native Norton anthology that features over 100 poets from different Indigenous nations. I'm grateful to have a couple poems in there, but we actually recorded some of those poets reading their contributions, and we're going to give a little intro to it. And so keep an eye out for that Native Lens submission coming out. But yes, you can definitely submit some poetry. I know they encourage experimental films as well. Just the sky's the limit, however you want to tell your story.
Yes, definitely. However you want and can tell your story, we'll take it. we want to hear from you. And let's see. There was a question, but directed to one of the filmmakers, and perhaps Cheyenne is on the YouTube comments. So they're having a conversation about their experience growing up as a indigenous non-binary person. So I'm not sure if you want to weigh in there. And there's a question for Ernest. Why did you agree to become a consultant on the project?
That's a great question. You know, these types of projects, I think, especially focused around communities who I was familiar with, or folks like, you know, huge voices like Enrique and Tanea's alone, are such an opportunity to expand it. And I think Rocky Mountain PBS has done a great job. Clearly, KSU2 Radio has done a lot of great work. I know one of the partners is Fort Lewis College as well. But any type of project that elevates the Indigenous voice to me in any way, shape, or form I'm totally in support of that. And I think that, you know, so often there's only that one voice or the few voices that are out there. But I'm a strong believer in that you don't have to be an elected tribal leader to be, you know, to present something and to also provide your perspective on not only your history but your story. And this is exactly, you know, tying into continuing that. We are all descendants of great tribal leadership and tribal leaders. And somebody has said that in our film, in one of these films, that, you know, it's pumping through us, that continues through us. And I think that's such a connection. And so that's why I think ultimately, you know, that's ultimately why I wanted to get involved with it. And this has been far exceeded my expectations on the submissions that folks brought in. Like I was hoping that we would get, you know, I was really crossing fingers that we would get more than just a few, but I mean, Enrique, I don't know how many, or Tanea, if you both know how many came out and overall, but just the response in general, I mean, that this is awesome. This is just great to see all these different perspectives.
Well, there's a lot in the pipeline, I know, and if you want to see all the stories that we have currently completed and ready for viewing, you can go to nativelens.org and check out all of the stories there. We have a couple of questions that we want to get to before we run out of time here. There's a question from Winter, Naomi Vera, and she's asking, what cinematic or television works do you feel do the best in representing Indigenous people? For me, short answer, not many, but I'll let one of the other hosts take this question as well.
Yeah, I'm not a film buff myself, but I would say all like things created by us for us, you know.
Yeah, no, I would also agree with that. I'm trying to keep up with the questions as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Now they're coming.
Oh, and I did want to mention real quick too that I know, and there is a episode on this as well too about connectivity across Indian countries. So I know for me, even getting all of my students hotspots, it's still been tough to upload things, and sometimes when I'm at home, it cuts out as well. So if you're like, I have a video, but I can't upload it, the file's too big. We actually did recently accept a hard copy file mailed from Alaska. So if you want to send it snail mail, that is fine too.
We have one question about our future plans for Native Lens. What's next for the project? And are we going to have more events like this? I would love to have more events like this.
I agree. And I think too that it'd be awesome to see the different areas of Indian country where, you know, maybe we're not used to. Maybe the folks are thinking this was going to maybe more focus on the Southwest and in general, but getting this file from Alaska, seeing other folks from Washington or on the East Coast or the West Coast, it's going to be it's great to see those submissions.
Yeah, I'm excited for Poetry Corner and seeing where other things, where the ideas from the community come together and spawn something new. I'm excited about that. Let's see. And if you have any, if you want to stay updated, if you registered for this event, we typically ask for your email, so we'll send you notifications. You can follow us on Instagram as well. Just search for Native Lens, and you can follow us there. We're putting clips up there as well as sharing information from the community and continually trying to give more visibility and voice to the community. I answered the Instagram question. Somebody asked to the participants, was it easy to submit content? And what is your takeaway from the beginning to seeing? If anybody of filmmakers can answer that in the comments, that would be great. And let's see. Don't know if I missed a question.
I will say that for those of you who like swag, Kayla Shaggy created a design for us for a t-shirt, so we should have some Native Lens t-shirts on the way. We also have a copy of her comic book, The Sixth World. So she's from Shiprock and a Fort Lewis grad. So we're excited to help support in that way. And again, like use our platform to give a platform.
I'm definitely ordering one of those shirts and the comic book.
All right, I think that's got to all of the questions. And there's an email also, you can email nativelens@rmpbs.org. If you have any questions, or if you want to get more information, or if you want some support, one of us will answer that, and we can guide you through the process if you need that. All right, we're about at time. Any closing thoughts? Any parting thoughts here?
I guess just for me, I hope everybody who's watching submits your story. I hope you've been motivated and empowered to do so, and just know that, again, each of you has a story, each of you has a voice, and that voice matters, and we would love to get a submission from you.
Yeah, I'd also second that. Please, 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 no matter how comfortable you feel with it in terms of don't have to be professional filmmaker at all. This is just it's about your story, and really the most impactful is that you have a voice, and that these organizations are here to be able to help support and again elevate that voice. So Dogoyak, which means thank you, and you to my co-hosts and my colleagues and everybody that made this happen. Really appreciate and honored to be with you this evening.
Oh, and I forgot, if any of you teach, we do have a curriculum for it. So just email us at our email address, and we can get you a copy of that curriculum.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and end this event. Stay tuned, and we will be having more events in the future, and we'll keep you informed. Thank you so much.